And we came to find out that he ate this weird type of meat, was brought over from Egypt, which was his home country, and it was, I think, called basturma meat. He developed this really strange infection that permeated his entire body, and it caused this condition which is called CD by the doctors. And the claim was that the pathologist at the hospital failed to timely diagnose this condition, which led to his death.
All right, everybody, we're here for day 2 of the Midwest Trial Lawyers Summit in downtown Detroit. We got more great guests for you to hear from today from all over the country. You are not going to believe this special edition, Crazy Cases Gone Wild special edition.
Okay, for those who may not know who you are, tell us who you are, where you practice, and how you found your way into trial law.
My name is Ryan Van Stone. I own Van Stone Injury Law. I spent 7.5 years at Michigan's largest personal injury law firm, and then I opened my own, and we're in West Bloomfield, Detroit, Pontiac, and we practice all over the state.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, tell us about a case that you'll never forget.
I got prompted a little bit before we met, Justine, so I had a chance to think because I don't get asked about war stories very often.
Yeah.
The first thing that came to mind was like my very first trial deposition was a wild case. I call it like the farmer on a roof case because I had a gentleman who was going the wrong way down the road, except that gentleman happened to be my client. So the police report, the other driver and everybody who was involved, and my client was catastrophically injured, said, hey, your client was going the wrong way down a country road. And we kind of, sometimes you just got to go for it, right? Especially when you're a young lawyer, you don't necessarily have a lot of cases to work on. So I said, sure, why not? See if we can get some good facts out of the case. Anyways, my client he's a Vietnam veteran, was already on disability before the crash started. And long story short, he was really messed up in this case. So had a true traumatic brain injury. So we had nothing left, and we're about 3 weeks from trial, and the offer at the time was $0. And what you do is you kind of, although we were late in the game, we decided maybe we just got to start knocking on doors. So we went out to the country where this case was, about middle of Michigan, started knocking on doors, and I found a farmer who said, hey, do you remember ever seeing a crash out here? Or, because, a lot doesn't happen in low populated areas. Maybe they have a memory. And this gentleman, a farmer, told me, he goes, actually, I do remember this case, or I remember this crash. And he said, I was on the top of my barn at the intersection, and his house is like probably half mile down, but the barn was at the intersection. He goes, I remember it perfectly. There was a blue truck driving like a bat out of hell, like 90 miles per hour, and he blew through a stop sign and hit some poor guy and caused his car to roll over. This guy basically came out of the woodwork. He showed up to trial, but ultimately it turned out that it was a big lie. My client wasn't going the wrong way. He was driving like a normal person, and the guy ran a red light or a stop sign. So that's my craziest case. Just finding I found a farmer on a roof who told the story, told the truth, and we ended up not having issues in the case. It turned out pretty good.
Right. Well, that is a very unique situation too, because you got to knock on doors and see what everyone, if they've seen it before or not.
Yeah.
What is your trial superstition?
You should have prepped me on these questions. This is not fair. My superstition is
like something you need to do before every trial, or like a good routine you get going before.
My superstition is probably water. I know it sounds crazy, but I have this paranoia of it's those moments where if the jury's watching, they're going to think you're doing stupid things. So I always make sure I have water that's full, and I'm not having to tip my head back to get that last piece, and no ice. It's weird. It always comes to mind. I'm always self-conscious about that.
Do you have a favorite legal movie? We'll do a fun one.
Favorite legal movie? Jeez. Legally Blonde. Without Because
That's a great answer.
Yeah.
No, that's
yeah,
that's
number
a
2 is
really-
Lincoln lawyer. That's
Okay, well that's also a
Yeah,
really
yeah.
good answer.
what about yours?
Ooh. I would say Legally Blonde too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's like
Not
very
you kind of went
motivating.
atypical. That's not very atypical, I would say. Most,
no, yeah.
most people would
that's-
like that.
Yeah. And Lincoln Lawyer is a really good one too.
It's awesome.
Well, thank you so much for
Absolutely.
joining us on the podcast, and it was a pleasure.
Yeah, nice to meet you, Justine.
You too. For those who may not know you, tell us who you are, where you practice, and how you found your way into trial law.
Yeah, so my name is Jared Reardon. I'm an appellate attorney at Marko Law in Detroit. I primarily, so as I said, I do appellate work, a lot of briefing, a lot of writing, getting into the nitty gritty, both helping out the trial attorneys at the firm and obviously working on appeals. And I found my way here because, I'm a history major. I need to have a job after getting out of university. And I've always wanted to do something that can help people. That's why I got into plaintiff's work specifically. And yeah, here I am.
Can you tell us about some of the craziest cases you've had, or maybe one particular case that stands out to you?
I mean, one of the crazier cases is one that's coming up to trial on July 11th. I don't want to get too much into it just because it is upcoming, but it's a pretty crazy case where, these kids are standing by at a test track for Continental Tire. They're just trying to watch a little demonstration. Continental puts on this young, not kid, but very young guy. It's like early 20s, I believe. Doesn't really have the experience or training necessary to drive around this high-speed test prototype car that's designed by Ford and given to Continental. And it goes off the rails very quickly. He spins out into the kids, and it's just a horrible case to watch. But yeah, it's definitely a crazy case for the reason that you got 3 defendants and there's 8 attorneys on the case, and there's been a whole flurry of activity right in the end, right at the end
So how
stage.
long would that trial, all 3 trials combined, really
All 3
take?
trials combined are gonna. I would be shocked if the first trial doesn't take a month.
Oh, wow.
So it's
That
gonna
is crazy.
probably be 3 months at least. It's gonna be insane. It's gonna be crazy.
So do you have any advice for someone who might consider wanting to do trial law?
Yeah. So, I do appellate stuff specifically, which is a little niche area that, you kind of just find yourself in. I always like it. I find it's conducive with my sort of style of how I like to work. I could just get in the zone in my little den, as I call it, my lair, and get to writing. But yeah, I mean, to do good trial work, having empathy, I think, is important. I think a lot of people would say that it helps you really get in the flow of what's important in a case. Really caring about the clients, caring about the outcome, really wanting to win for them. It helps to have an incentive, and that's a great one, I would say. So just know your purpose, really. That's what I'd say.
Yeah, no, that's a great piece of advice. Okay, we can do a fun one. If you weren't a
fun one.
lawyer, what do you think you would be doing?
If I wasn't a lawyer, that's a good question. I mean, like I mentioned previously, it's all tying it together. We're synthesizing here with this one. I was a history major in college. If I wasn't a lawyer, I like to think I would probably have gone further on, maybe become a professor or something,
Yeah.
big history nerd. So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Jared. It's
Thank
been
you
a
very
pleasure.
much. Thanks for having me.
For those who may not know you, tell us who you are, where you work, and how you got into trial law.
Sure. So my name's John Eads. I work at Marko Law. I'm the managing partner there. And, John and I met probably 5 years ago. And I was on the defense side from 1990 until 2025. So a long time.
Yeah, that's a long time.
And I actually started trying cases, I think, in 1993. and actually 1992. I'm sorry. So about 2 years into my career, back in those days, you were thrown a file, and my partner said, "Figure it out." So I went in with very, very low expectations, and I was fortunate enough to win my first trial. As a defense lawyer, it's called a no cause. So we were excited. And then my second trial, I lost because I was pretty cocky after winning the first one. And I figured out that you can't ever look at past successes and predict future successes. You have to work hard on every single case because every case is different.
Wow. Okay. Can you tell us about maybe your craziest case or maybe a couple of cases that
Sure.
were really standing out to you?
I had a couple really crazy cases. One case I've tried a lot of cases, but representing doctors in hospitals was very interesting. And I did that for probably 50% of my career. So we had this case in Ann Arbor. We were representing the University of Michigan and a physician. And it was a really bizarre case. This professor, his name was Mr. Maraba. He was admitted to the university, and he was having all these weird symptoms, and the doctors couldn't figure out what happened. And we came to find out that he ate this weird type of meat, which is raw meat, which is was brought over from Egypt, which was his home country, and it was, I think, called basturma meat. And it was I had to do a bunch of research on it, but he developed this really strange infection that permeated his entire body, and it caused this condition called Clostridium difficile, which is called CD by the doctors. And the claim was that the pathologist at the hospital failed to timely diagnose this condition, which led to his death. And he allegedly owned Orange Grove Acres in Florida, and his wife was trying to claim that she couldn't run the business anymore, and the Orange Groves were making $7 million in revenue a year back in the early 90s. And so it became a case where the university was a state agency, so the judge sat as the trial judge for the university, but then he had an advisory jury for the doctors. And that law changed in 2013. So now the Court of Claims is staffed by Court of Appeals judges, unless there's a separately named doctor. So it had all these different crazy legal issues. The damages were really speculative because they couldn't really prove how much revenue the Orange Groves were going to be generating into the future. And so it was a case where I was a 3-year lawyer, and I literally was working on the case every day. And we ultimately won the case, which was great. But that was a really strange case.
Yeah,
the other case I had was I represented Beaumont Hospital, and I had an ER doctor and a resident. The ER doctor and I went to high school together. So I represented him, and I had to go through all this stress and strain with him. And basically, he allegedly failed to diagnose a mucus plug in a quadriplegic individual. And the claim was that had he diagnosed it, he wouldn't have died later that day. So they discharged him. They took him home, and he died. He lived with his parents. And his parents, during trial, followed the judge out to his car and threatened him because they thought that the judge was giving me all the rulings, and they were really upset that the judge wasn't being, in their opinion, fair. So the judge declared a mistrial. He said, I can't do this anymore because they threatened me and they followed me to my car. So after a week and a half in trial, I had to start all over again, and I had to console the doctor and the resident, who was now in Florida, and tell them that we have to do it all over again. And the spouse of the doctor, the spouse of the decedent, she started doing weird things to me. Like I would see her in the hallway and I was feeling a little bit nervous, and I started looking over my shoulders after court every day and wondering if they were following me to my house. That was a crazy case.
Yeah, that does
So
sound
those are two kind of
Those were
those are two that stick out.
Yeah, those did stick out. Wow. Okay, we'll do a fun one before you go. What is your trial superstition?
Trial superstition is when I have a jury out, I sit in the same place and I don't move. And it's not in the courtroom. It's outside the courtroom in a chair.
Wow.
And I will not move unless I have to take a comfort break. And I will not move from the same chair. It's just a weird thing that I've always had. And I've done it so many times, and most probably 98% of the time it's worked.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's awesome. Well, Jon, thank you so much for joining us today. It was
Thank
a pleasure.
you. It's always a pleasure. And we'll see you around the clubhouse, as they say.
So for those who may not know you, tell us who you are, what you do, and how you got into trial law.
I am Frances Murphy. I have a small law practice in St. Clair Shores. And I used to work for the insurance companies on the defense side, and I switched over. And I've probably tried about 10 cases. So I have some trial experience, not an expert like these people here. But I do enjoy trials. You learn so much through the process. And I just kind of fell into it. I graduated from law school after the recession, so I kind of went where there was an opportunity, and that's how I ended up here.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Right. So, off the top of your head, can you think about any of your craziest cases that maybe you've experienced in the last couple of years?
Yeah, I think just since we're here for this trial conference, the one that's coming to mind is one we took to trial last year. And it was a PIP case against an insurance company. The insurance company actually was the insurance company for the insured, so he's a named insured on the policy. And under Michigan law, if you're maintaining your car, like he was underneath his car working on it, you're entitled to have your medical bills paid by your auto insurance company. So our client was underneath the car, underneath his Chevy Blazer. It rolled off the ramps and it fell on him and it crushed him, breaking 12 ribs. And he almost died. And so the insurance company, instead of paying his wage loss and paying his medical bills, they hired an expert. And this guy lived in the Upper Peninsula. So, plenty of doctors in Michigan they could have hired to bring up there. They brought someone from South Carolina. They flew him up all the way up to the UP to evaluate him. And, the expert looked at all of his medical records, reviewed his MRI reports, interviewed him for, according to his wife, 4 minutes, and decided that nothing was related to the accident. So we were put in, at that point, you have no choice but to go to trial. And the jury, I was kind of in shock that this case went to trial because of how obvious it was. This guy almost died. And they just wouldn't pay what he had, he paid for insurance and they would not deliver when, he almost died. And the jury came back and gave us everything we asked for. We got attorney fees and costs. And so I would say, in the spirit of trial, talking about trials, that's the one that comes to mind.
Wow. So, how long did that trial last?
That was about 3 days.
2 days? Okay.
I think we had 2 experts, 3 lay witnesses. They had 1 expert. It was in front of a judge in Oakland County who moves quickly. Mm-hmm. And we tried for the jury. We told the jury at the beginning, we want to move this quickly for you. We want to keep it interesting. And so it was about 3 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
We'll do some fun questions. What is your favorite legal movie?
Definitely My Cousin Vinny. Yeah, you can't get anything better than that. And it's interesting because in that movie, he does cross-examination that is funny, but a lot of legal scholars will go back and say he does an excellent form of cross-exam, even though it's a comedy. Right. It's just a great movie.
Yeah, because sometimes when you watch movies, they'll be doing like the courtroom procedures, and sometimes it's very unrealistic in how it goes. But the movies that do it very realistic and true to real life, those are the really good movies.
Those are the good ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, if you weren't a lawyer, what would you be doing?
I usually say I would be a yoga teacher. That's what I usually say when people ask me that question.
Well, Doing yoga is great for being a lawyer.
I do love it.
Releases a lot of that stress.
It really does. I never miss a yoga class when I'm in trial. Gotta still go. So,
well, thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast. It was a
Yeah.
pleasure to have you.
I know. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, Nathan Lombard, how are we doing today?
Good, David. How are you, man?
Good, just
Good to see
chilling.
you
You
again.
know?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Here
Good
we are
conference.
at the Midwest Trial Lawyers Summit, right? 2026.
Yeah, it's
Were
been
you
great.
here last year?
No, I wasn't. First time.
First time. How are you liking it
It's
so far?
impressive.
Yeah,
impressive.
it's
A lot of
great.
talent.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So please tell us a little bit about yourself, your upbringings, and which firm you work for, and
Sure.
yeah, just
So my name is Nathan Lombard. I originally from Grand Rapids, Michigan.
great.
Moved to Indiana and
All right.
finished high school. Then I went on to university, but kind of had a unique path, I guess, to get to the legal profession. I ended
Yes.
up incarcerated for a period of time. Filed a federal civil rights lawsuit on my own
Yeah.
behalf for a denial of health care.
Wow.
And federal judge, I had some success, limited success. Federal judge recommended I go to law school.
Yeah.
And when I got out, I was recruited by Marko Cross, and
Awesome.
senior paralegal at the firm. And
Beautiful.
of course, we work very closely with Marko Law,
Definitely.
as you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've done some. We did a pretty big case recently.
Pretty historic case, right?
Pretty historic.
307.6 million.
I still couldn't believe it when I saw that.
Largest civil rights verdict in American history.
In American history. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
is.
Yeah, I mean, talk to me about how that trial process was and like what made this case so crazy. Because I mean, we saw it firsthand, and I mean, there's so much we can go into.
I know it's hard to even know where to begin,
Right.
right? I mean, do we start at the first bankruptcy when they
Yeah.
did the divisional merger and tried to escape liability altogether? It's hard to even know where to begin. But it's a crazy case. It's truly historic in that it's the first time a company like this has been held accountable to the degree that they have, given the fact that the injury was non-permanent.
Right.
Right, and it wasn't life or death.
Yeah.
So they never thought that this day would come.
Right.
They certainly undervalue these types of cases. Right. It was
Definitely.
just like, well, you're an inmate.
Yeah.
You've been just merely inconvenienced by having to wear a colostomy bag for the last 2 years unnecessarily, and this false belief they held that jurors just wouldn't care. They would just wouldn't be sympathetic to the plight of someone like Mr. Jackson.
Yeah.
And they were wrong.
Right. Oh yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, they're they're human beings. Okay, whether they're in prison or not, they deserve the right care.
Well, absolutely. I mean, not only do they have a constitutional protection, right,
Yeah.
to receive constitutionally adequate health care. We're not talking about, extraordinary measures and being flown to the Mayo Clinic. We're just talking about constitutionally, sufficient health care. Not only are they being denied that, but the reason why people should care about an issue like this is because what this company did was push the cost back onto the taxpayer. So here was a company that was being paid over $700 million to fulfill a 5-year contract to provide health care on behalf of Michigan prisoners. It wasn't doing that. Instead, they were pocketing the money and then shifting that cost back to the Michigan taxpayer.
Crazy.
When Mr. Jackson was eventually released, he went to a great physician, Dr. Weber, who immediately saw the necessity to reverse his colostomy and did so. And of course, that was covered by Medicaid because it was medically necessary. So, the taxpayers are the ones taking the hit, and they're taking it twice, while the executives, fly around on private jets and buy houses in the Hamptons.
Exactly. And talking about executives, I mean, we had a pretty big highlight moment in the trial with
Shout out to Isaac Lefkowitz.
Shout out to
right?
him.
Man of little words. He pled the fifth
on
at
everything,
trial.
including where he lived.
Including where he lived.
Insane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was insane. It's one of these, if you scripted it, people wouldn't believe it. They'd say, "Oh, that would never happen.
You're
That
right.
wouldn't happen in real life," and it did.
And it did.
It's almost made for TV.
I know.
Yeah.
It was too good. Yeah. So, of course, Samantha told me to ask you about it.
Yep, Samantha's great.
yeah.
Shout out to Samantha Teal. I think the best, jury consultant there is. Yeah,
hands down.
phenomenal.
Yeah, there's a reason why this event is being set up, and she's back to back in trials all the time.
Nobody with a better work ethic.
Yeah.
Not only is she super bright, but just tenacious. She's phenomenal. Can't say enough about her. Worth every penny.
100%.
In fact, I think she comes at a significant discount.
Yeah, I
I mean,
think
we were
so.
pleasantly surprised when we got the bill, because we expected it was going to be much higher.
Right.
So I just I can't say enough good things about Samantha Teal.
Yeah, she's great.
She is phenomenal.
Yeah. So Nathan, tell me. So you said you represented yourself in
I did.
court.
Yeah.
What did you do to prepare for that? I mean, most people, they just go up there and they probably mess up, right? If you're,
Oh, certainly. Well, I mean, the deck's kind of stacked against you, right? There's a huge learning curve. It's not like TV.
No, yeah.
It's much more complicated, much more nuanced.
Yeah.
All I could do was read, right?
Yeah.
I took the opportunity to read everything I could. I say I had limited success because I was able to negotiate a settlement against the county jail.
Okay.
So there was a liability I was able to establish there.
Okay. Good.
However, the company, Corizon, was the same company that denied Mr. Jackson his care.
Insane.
Was the same company that denied me my care back when I
Yeah.
was an inmate. And I was unable to establish that Manel claim.
Right.
And so they're provided some immunity, limited immunity, where you have to show that it's not just mere negligence of the provider.
Right.
Rather, it's an underlying custom, policy, or practice of the corporation itself that led to your injury.
Definitely.
And how do you do that from prison?
Right.
Right? They're not going to take your word for it.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to gather that evidence. So my case was ultimately dismissed for failure to establish that Manel claim.
Okay.
When I got out and was eventually recruited by the firm, I had that roadmap. I knew from my previous defeat what was required of me, right? What were we going to need to develop this Manel claim in Mr. Jackson's case? So I immediately got to work finding former employees who not only could testify, but would testify of these policies and practices that were in place to deny care. And we found incredible people, Dr. Jan Watson, PA Kristen Rattler,
Right.
and nurse Sonia Folks. Incredible people, incredibly, caring, true healthcare professionals who just had to overcome these insurmountable hurdles placed in front of them by this company. And had to be the ones on the ground and see the negative effects of that firsthand, right?
Exactly.
Because they're the ones that see the patients.
Yeah.
These people who are profiting and making these policies, right?
Yeah.
They don't see the aftermath, right? They just see the dollar signs.
Exactly. And I mean, it's easy from an outside perspective to say, oh, it's just a prison inmate, right? It's like, oh, it's a criminal. But then when you actually bring in these people and you have these perspectives and it's like, okay, wait, actually, they were just in a bad spot in life. And now they're in an even worse spot with these.
Certainly, and regardless of what brought them there, right? I mean, they have families, they have people that care about them.
Exactly.
And it's just an unfortunate way to view human beings. It's just merely a number on a spreadsheet.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I told you before, Nathan, you need to get a book written because, man, your life is like a movie. And actually, didn't you say
we're working on it and already in talks with some Hollywood producers, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, let's get that going.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
we'll get it on the podcast. We'll tag it in and
Sounds great, man.
Awesome. Well,
hey, it's always great seeing you, brother.
Yeah, appreciate it, Nathan.
Yeah.
Thanks for stopping by.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, to get started, you just want to tell us a little bit about yourself, your name, and where you work.
Sure. My name is Michaeline Sawinski, and I work at Olsman, McKenzie, and Peacock. It's a personal injury firm that does every type of personal injury law, but we specialize in assisted living and nursing home negligence. I've worked there since August. Prior to that, I worked for a defense firm for a few years, and then prior to that, I worked at Feiger Law. And I was there for 20 years. I began my career there as a legal secretary, and then I went to law school, and then I began working there as an attorney. So I had a lot of experience with Jeffrey, and I would go with him when he would try cases. So I had great experiences watching him be as a trial attorney, and it was really an amazing experience to do that.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah.
How do you think the practice has changed since when you first started?
I feel like it. The AI definitely has changed it a lot. I feel like that's like the new wave. That was, when I first started, we didn't have email. So I've been doing this for a while, which is so crazy that we didn't have email and we didn't, when I first, as a secretary, we I mean, we actually had typewriters still, and we had, the summonses were on carbon copies. So it has changed a lot in terms of, technology, and AI is just amazing at what it can do and the capabilities of it. But I think that, relationships with plaintiff and defense counsel, I think it used to be a little bit more playful. It's not as much anymore, which is, good and bad, I guess. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think that you would definitely have a lot more, I don't know, you joke around a lot more. I feel like that's missing a little bit in today's legal field. I don't know. Feels like it's a little different. Everybody takes things really personal, I think, and I feel like you have to be more careful when you speak to people.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what would you say is the craziest thing you've seen happen during trial, or your craziest trial story?
Let's see. Well, I saw an expert fall asleep. He still actually is an expert that is in some of the cases that are against me. He's a defense expert. He's an emergency medicine expert. And he fell asleep with his head back in the courtroom. So his attorney had to wake him up to put him on the stand. And then while he was on the stand, he mentioned an article, and we went to lunch that he thought supported his case. We went to lunch. We actually blew up the article, and it actually supported our case. And he got really mad and threw the papers at Jeffrey.
Oh my goodness.
And Jeff said, "I don't need them. You take them." And then he threw them back at him. And it was just, and the jury loved it. It was a Wayne County jury. It was really fun. We had a great verdict. That was really fun. And then one time we had something happen where the judge said, "Sorry about the fireworks," to the jury, and the jury said, No, we love the fireworks. I thought that was kind of fun. You don't really hear the jury talk back to the judge all that often, but especially talking about fireworks and how much they loved kind of what was dramatic happening in the courtroom. So that was interesting. I mean, I've had a couple things. There was one with Sam and Jeffrey, and they showed our client on a four-wheeler, and the video was sped up. So we got the video and we showed it in real time, and that made them look really bad. It made them look like, you know what I mean? She was going really slow because you could see the dog going around it that they didn't show in the video because that's how slow it was going. So that was fun. That was the firework trial. That was a really fun trial. I felt like there was a bunch of stuff going on there.
Now, with juries, is there a type of juror that you prefer to have on the panel?
I think you really have to talk to them to figure it out. You know what I mean? I just watched the Michael Jackson trial, or the documentary on the Michael Jackson trial. And that juror was once she started talking, you could just hear how bad she was. You knew that she just wanted to believe everything that the defense had to say. And you could just tell from you could have probably asked her any question, and you knew she would have made an excuse for anybody. You know what I mean? You definitely don't want them to be, that they excuse any kind of behavior for whatever reason. So,
absolutely.
I mean, I think that it really depends. I don't know. I don't have a jury that I would just get off of, I don't know.
Let's see. Do you have any trial superstitions?
Oh, yeah. Talking about how great we're going to do before the jury comes out. Jeff and I did that one time, and it didn't turn out well.
So no, you don't do that anymore.
No. I don't think he did it either anymore. It was bad. We had the jury there out. We went out for dinner and had drinks, and we were just kind of talking about how well it went and how the jury was gonna, they're never gonna do this, they're never gonna do that. They didn't like her. They didn't like, you know what I mean? And we got no cost. It was not good. So I would never do that again. We're pretty quiet after. We don't talk about it.
I don't blame you one bit. Okay, and then to close, what would be one piece of advice that you would give to the next generation of lawyers?
God, that's hard. I mean, definitely be respectful to the other side. I do think that's a big deal. I mean, we have to stand our ground sometimes. We can't agree to everything, but I definitely think being respectful to, whatever counsel is on the other side, defense or plaintiff, whatever side you're on, is really important to do. You can say no. You don't have to say yes to every request on each side, but you have to be respectful when you do it, and you should have a reason for it. And I'm just a big proponent of knowing your case. Reading every little detail. That's my big thing. You gotta, some attorneys have associates read their records or their paralegals. I read my records. I know whatever happened and all the things, everything. I know it all. I know where it's at. I don't
Yeah.
have to ask anybody. I think that's a big deal.
Yeah, being prepared.
Definitely being prepared, knowing your case very well, and that means reading all the records, everything that is out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well,
right.
thank you so much.
All right, thanks, Brooke.
Yeah.
All right. Hi, Jason. How we doing today?
Doing fantastic. How are you, Diego?
Pretty good. Where are we at right now?
We are at I call it the Jon Marko seminar, but it's the Midwest Trial Lawyers Summit.
Yeah, it's a exciting event, Midwest Trial Lawyers Summit 2026. Thank you for being here and taking the time. Please introduce yourself and your firm and what you do.
Well, Jason Wechter for the plaintiff is what I said this whole week. I'm known as the motorcycle lawyer here in Michigan. I have 3 other lawyers, offices in Southfield, and we handle everything in Michigan and then some.
Awesome. Great. Now, tell us, what's going on in your world? Do you have any big verdicts you've had recently? And yeah.
Well, when people say, hey, what's going on, anything new? Actually, this week I tried a case in Macomb County. Yesterday we got a verdict. Kind of an unusual case.
Okay.
Representing a motorcyclist. That's not unusual. We do a lot of motorcycle work, I probably tried more motorcycle cases than anybody in the state. But we had one, our client rear-ended the back of a van.
Wow.
The van stopped abruptly for a police car that was going the opposite way.
Yeah.
But when you rear-end somebody in Michigan, they have a statute called fail to stop an assured clear distance. That's the rear-end statute.
Yeah.
And when we started that trial, because of that statute, we started with that the plaintiff, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you must assume that the plaintiff is 100% negligent to start with.
Right.
So it's a little bit of a hole to dig out from.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, so what happened to your client? Did he break anything or?
Well, interesting. Everybody says this is a woman motorcyclist.
Oh, okay, awesome.
And they actually tried to paint her as not experienced, which was a big part of the case.
Interesting.
So this woman slams on her van because a police car is coming. The motorcyclist has, you have to perceive, react.
Yeah.
She's what she thought was a safe distance, what I still believe was a safe distance, and she had to, figure out which way to go right, go left, lean, brake, or a combination of all those things. And of course, she ended up hitting the back, tumbling over. She broke her wrist and had a wrist surgery.
Wow.
With some hardware and stuff in it. But ultimately, they just said, this is a rear ender. You cannot win it. You will never win it. The defense said they focus grouped it a couple times, and it was always 100% the fault of the plaintiffs. So that's a no cause in Michigan. We even have to prove that if the plaintiff is 50%, more than 50% at fault, you get 0.
Yeah.
So we focus grouped it too. Just what's interesting is because of the police car, we had dash cam video that showed the crash.
Good.
So we focus grouped, hey, 10 people, what do you think? 10 lay people, what do you think of this video? 100% plaintiff's fault.
Wow.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah.
And we focus grouped it a number of times, and that's unusual. That's kind of wild that we focus grouped it 4 times.
Yeah.
And the 4th time it was 50-50. So we went to the trial just hoping maybe we get 50-50 and be able to win this case.
Yeah, and I mean, being on a motorcycle, it's risky enough. So.
And that's what you have to go through voir dire for, and we call that motorcycle bias.
Right.
So I have some good questions to talk about to maybe suck out that motorcycle bias and see if they're going to hold that against us.
100%. And I mean, when you're in that trial and you're trying to convince this jury that, hey, like remove that bias and make that perspective, what's one thing you do?
With the bias, well, here's my good question. It's called a scale question in voir dire. And I say, some people think, like my father, let's just say that's a number 1. My father thinks if you get hit by a car and it's the other person's fault, they were negligent, you should be able to sue them for every penny, even if you're on a motorcycle.
Exactly.
That's a 1. On the opposite side, let's say that's a 5. That's my mother. She thinks you get on a motorcycle, it's your fault to begin with.
Right.
You're asking for it. Motorcycles are dangerous.
Okay.
People can't see them. So, Diego, I'm asking you, from scale from 1 to 5, are you more like my father or are you more like my mother? You get on that motorcycle, you deserve it.
I would say I would probably be at a 3. Like,
I knew you were going to do that.
Yeah.
And sometimes I use a number like 1 through 7. There's no
safe there.
3.5. And somebody said 3.5. And I'm like, oh, you took the easy way out.
Yeah.
Which way would you lean? Just a little bit. So that's one of the techniques with motorcycle cases.
Definitely, and I probably lean more towards your mother's side, honestly. Yeah, because it's dangerous, but yeah, I mean that's great. And so we're here at the summit. What's one tip you would give to an up and coming plaintiff lawyer?
Great question. Well, I could talk about focus groups.
Yeah.
Probably the first 30 years of practice, if I focus grouped a case, it was probably only a handful of times because it cost $10,000. I had to hire somebody. They would get 20 people in a room, and I would only do it on my biggest cases that were about to go to trial, and I would do it at the last minute because that's a lot of money to spend. Well, I figured out a way. So I'd say focus group more cases, but I focus grouped probably the same number of cases I focus grouped in 30 years just in this year because I figured out how to do it myself in-house. So I'm just paying for the people's time. We do 2-hour focus groups. So that's the way I was able to focus group that one case 4 times. Never would I have done that before.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, focus group more cases, but you have to do with legit lay people that don't know you and bring them in, just ask, lay people what they think of your case, especially a video. We're getting a lot of video these days.
Definitely.
Because people are rolling with their own dash cams. Cops are showing up with body cams. And we're getting a lot of good footage to ask focus groups
That's
about.
brilliant. And I mean, I'm sure you don't just pull anyone from the street, right? You do you have a selection, or how
we
would
try
you
to have we definitely want to have a method. They say, if you go on Craigslist, some of the people are a little crazy.
Right.
Facebook's a little bit better. So I have a website, a focus group company that I formed for this purpose for my firm. Maybe I'll open it up later on. It's called firsttrial.org because I say the first time you try a case shouldn't be the first time you try the case.
No.
So we're going to do that more, and maybe we'll open that up in 2027 to other lawyers. But I'm focus grouping so many of my cases right now, learning so much, adjusting them and figuring out how to litigate them better.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for taking
Thanks
the
for
time,
having
and thank you for sharing your craziest case, and hope you enjoy the rest of the summit.
Take care.
Thank you. Sam, hi, thank you for coming.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're on the Cases Gone Wild podcast, special edition Midwest Trial Lawyers Summit 2026. Please tell the audience about yourself, your firm, and your practice.
So I've been practicing for about 12 years now. I spent most of my time on the defense side of things, defending third-party auto negligence, slip and falls, dog bites, things like that, some PIP. And I made the switch over. I'm at Van Stone Injury Law now,
Awesome.
and so far so good. It's been about a year and a half, and we are swamped. So it's been good. Yeah. It's been a good switch so far.
Awesome. Yeah. And what's that transition been like? I know it's different being on the other side for sure.
Yeah, it is. You know what? And I think it's a bit of an advantage sometimes. I can help get inside the carriers' heads and inside the adjusters' heads and kind of know what they're thinking and try to get out ahead of certain things, which has been kind of the biggest learning curve. On the defense side of things, you're very reactive.
Yeah, definitely.
When you're on the plaintiff side, it is definitely a more aggressive approach, and it definitely need to be prepared.
100%.
And not that you don't on the defense side of things, but you really need to know where you're going, what your case is like from the day one.
Yeah.
You don't have the time to kind of sit back and wait and respond.
100%.
You need to be, you take the initiative and attack.
Yeah, and I mean, what's been something you've learned is a good way to prepare for something like that, or a good form of tack?
Honestly, just knowing your files. That's kind of the biggest thing. It's getting in there, it's caring, it's checking, making sure things are getting done and they're moving in a forward direction. Again, because you don't want to sit there and react. You want to get out ahead of any potential issues if there's a gap in treatment, or if there's one of the doctors that the plaintiff decides to see is not one that you would want them to be at. Things like that. You're catching that stuff early.
Yeah, 100%. So you're on the Cases Gone Wild, Sam. Doesn't have to be your wildest case, but let's hear a case that's been notable in your career that really pops out, you think?
There was one that I'm working on currently where
No names have to be said either.
No names. It's a T-bone accident at an intersection.
Oh, wow.
And, it may not be the highest value case. There are definitely some injuries there. It's just, it's
Still.
more along the lines of hurdles and obstacles and things that you have to get over.
Yeah.
I have it on video. I showed the video during the deposition of the at-fault driver.
Wow.
She did not see it the same way.
Oh.
It was a blown stop sign. She didn't make a complete stop.
Yeah.
Went right into my client, spun his truck around.
Oh my gosh.
And, even watching the video 2-3 times, just did not see it.
What?
Logs off of the deposition, comes back on. She's like, okay, maybe it happened that way. We start talking about it more. Logs off again.
Wow.
Very upset with me.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. Her own attorney was getting upset with her.
Oh my gosh.
And it's things like that I thought this would be a 15-minute deposition.
Yeah, right.
Show the video, that's it.
quick,
There's really no dispute.
Exactly.
Not the case.
No.
And so, good thing you're prepared. I had
Yeah.
videos. I have the police report. I have witnesses and
Good.
things like that. So it's good. But, yeah, you're just not. You never know. You never know. The
you never
easy
know.
ones could be the hard ones. The hard ones could be the easy ones.
Yeah, exactly. And
so-
things happen out of like nowhere, right, in the law world. So
Yeah, absolutely. You got to really be able to think on your toes. Kind of like today. I wasn't ready to be on the podcast, but I'm happy Jon, brought me over. And I know Jon from before I was even an attorney.
No kidding.
I spent time as his law clerk at a firm in Royal Oak.
Wow.
The Razor Law Firm. And so that's how I first met Jon. And then I went out of plaintiff world into the defense side of things.
Yeah.
Passed the bar, started working.
Great.
And then now full circle. I'm back
Awesome.
here and doing the same thing he's doing or trying to. He is killing it out there.
Yeah. And I mean, so what would be one thing you would recommend to a plaintiff attorney that's thinking about making the switch like you did? What's one tip you would give them, perhaps?
Pick up the phone. Communicate with your clients. Make sure you know what they're doing, how they're doing, and that they know you care. That's been the biggest difference. Working with insurance companies and insurance adjusters, it's a checkbox for them. It's something they need. You got to get this report out. What did the IME report say? All of that stuff. This, you have to care.
Yeah.
You have to, you have to be empathetic. You have to understand what the client's going through, and you got to be there for them. And they need to know that you have their back every step of the way. So that is, so far, without a doubt, my biggest advice is communicate with these clients like they are real people.
That's
not a
beautiful.
company writing a check.
Yeah, and it's about helping them at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
And what's the best way to help them is to care about them and for their situation.
Yeah.
So.
A lot of times, just being lawyers too, that sort of thing gets lost. We're so focused on the law, arguing
100%.
who's going to win. We're very competitive
Yeah.
people by nature, and you forget that. Oh man, there's a person on the other side
There
of this
is,
that
yeah.
is, and it's not like sometimes the injuries are absolutely catastrophic and
100%.
terrible, and it's not like we're dealing with criminal convictions or
Yeah,
anything,
definitely.
in the civil arena, but they're still people. There's impact, and they need to know that the person that they hired truly cares about them and has their back.
Yeah, thanks for stopping by.
All right, everybody, thanks for tuning into a special edition of Cases Gone Wild. We hope that you enjoyed listening to the show. We'll see you in another 2 weeks. Then we'll be back to our regular scheduled programming.